On his way back home from buying a game, a sleep-deprived shut-in named Sadu Kazuma sees a girl about to be run over by a speeding truck, and after lunging to push her out of the way, he finds himself sitting in a strange dimension, where a blue-haired beauty appears to tell him that he has died. The goddess named Aqua proceeds to reveal that what Kazuma thought was a truck had actually been a tractor which would have stopped for the girl anyways, and in fact Kazuma, thinking he got run over, had died from shock. To the amusement of everyone witnessing the scene, including his family and Aqua herself. Subsequent to laughing at a traumatized Kazuma who becomes enraged at her, Aqua offers him the choices of going to heaven where it is boring, reincarnating as a baby, or being transported to an RPG-like world in order to battle against the Devil King who terrorized it to the point the local dead are refusing to reincarnate there. Aqua proceeds to tell him that he can be gifted any powerful item or ability upon and going to that world, the language of which will be automatically installed into his head. Though Kazuma notices her covering up the warning on the manual she shows him about possibly turning his brains to mush. While Kazuma tries to select from a pile of leaflets, he gets annoyed by the impatient Aqua's attitude, thus out of spite decides to choose her as his cheat item. An angel accordingly appears to take Aqua's role in managing the dead and inform Kazuma the gods will grant any wish upon his success, before magically transporting Kazuma along with the panicking goddess to the city of Axel. After Kazuma gets over the initial excitement of arriving at another world, he discovers that the terrified Aqua, who is unable to return until the Devil King's defeat, is actually useless. The pair makes their way to the Adventurer Guild where adventurers in games usually start out, and is pointed to the reception by a ruffian. Yet upon asking to be registered as adventurers, Luna the receptionist asks for a registration fee which none of them have. As the pair frets over what to do, Aqua, seeing a priest, approaches him and demands money because she is the goddess of the Axis Order, only to hear that he belongs to the rival Eris Order which worships her junior goddess Eris, though she still gets paid out of pity. Following the payment, Luna explains how the system with adventurer classes and adventurer cards work. However, when having their stats analyzed by a crystal ball, Kazuma discovers he can only become the generic adventurer while Aqua can choose to be an archpriest who astonishes the whole guild. The two then proceed to spend the following weeks working a carefree life as construction laborers, drinking bubbly with their fellow workers during dinner, and sleeping in stinking stables at night, before eventually remembering that they need to do some actual adventuring. Disgusted at Aqua sleeping until almost noon while lamenting the lack of financial security for beginner adventurers who can only afford accommodation in stables, Kazuma is nonetheless unashamed at spending a long while watching the pajama-clad Aqua sleep. He brings just a short sword on their first subjugation quest, which requires them to defeat 5 giant toads in 3 days. He finds himself running for his life in the grasslands outside Axel from one of the giant toads that can swallow livestock or people whole, as Aqua giggles in amusement. When she lists out the terms for saving him, the giant toad switches directions and snaps her up instead. Giant toad stays still while slowly swallowing prey, so this gives Kazuma the opportunity to kill it. Aqua clings to him, weeping with gratitude, but he is revolted at the giant toad's saliva she is covered in. Wanting to redeem herself in Kazuma's eyes, Aqua charges at a giant toad colored pink and attempts to kill it with God Blow, only to have her punch dealing no damage. It gobbles her, forcing Kazuma to save her once more. Eating fried toad back at the Adventurer Guild that night, Aqua suggests they recruit new party members despite Kazuma's misgivings. The following day, they post a recruiting advertisement for somebody of an advanced class without getting a response. A petite girl with red eyes identifying herself in a display of pompous Chunibunus as the archwizard Megumin offers to join, before she collapses in hunger. While Kazuma grapples with Megumin over the eye patch she wears for coolness, Aqua explains how Crimson Demons, which Megumin is one of our all-powerful mages with weird names and personalities. After ordering Megumin food, they take her outside town to continue the quest against the giant toads, while Aqua unleashes God Requiem on a grey giant toad, only to be gobbled up again. Megumin performs the chants for her explosion magic, reducing a distant purple giant toad to a smoking crater. Another giant toad is awakened by the detonation. Exhausted from the spell, Megumin is unable to avoid being eaten, forcing Kazuma to save both girls, which completes the quest. While being carried back to town, Megumin explains that due to its high power, she can only cast explosion magic once a day, and is exhausted afterwards, but she is so obsessed with explosion magic that she refuses to learn anything else. As Aqua boasts about having learnt all Archpriest magic in addition to party skills, Kazuma tries to ditch Megumin, only for her to make such a scene on the streets that he has to keep her. Kazuma claims the meager quest rewards and laments that he is still too low-leveled to take more difficult quests. A beautiful blonde crusader named Darkness offers to join. Kazuma notices Darkness being turned on over how he supposedly ravaged Aqua and Megumin with slimy play, listens to her tell him that though she is strong and tough she cannot hit her targets, and tries to turn her away. However, Darkness is even more determined to join when hearing about the awful things his party may go through, arriving at the Adventurer Guild the next day to see Aqua showing off her nature's beauty skill, which he dismisses as a party trick. Kazuma hears how he can learn skills after them being demonstrated by other people from Megumin, before she gets upset when he calls her a lowly girl. Darkness approaches with a thief named Chris, who offers to teach Kazuma thief skills in exchange for bubbly. The three of them go out on the streets, where Chris takes Kazuma's purse during the demonstration of steal. She challenges Kazuma to steal either her dagger or the purse back from her once he learns steal, holding 2 handfuls of rocks in order to make it more challenging to steal a desirable target. He instead inadvertently steals her panties, which he excitedly waves around, to Chris' embarrassment and Darkness awe. They return to the guild, where a tearful Chris recounts how Kazuma bargained for his purse and her valuables in exchange for her panties, damaging Kazuma's reputation. Kazuma then demonstrates steal only to take Megumin's panties, at which Darkness again declares her desire to join, and feels pleasure at being rejected once more. With his companions agreeing to let Darkness join, Kazuma tries to scare her, Megumin, and Chris off by saying that his party will go fight the Devil King, only to spur Darkness and Megumin into sticking with him. Luna broadcasts an emergency quest, which sends townsfolk hiding in panic while all adventurers head outside the city gates. Following along with his party, Kazuma is dumbfounded to find out that their quest is to capture a swarm of flying cabbages heading towards Axel. The adventurers scramble to harvest the valuable vegetables. Darkness cannot hit any with her broadsword, and instead shields other adventurers injured by the cabbages, even when her armor and clothing get torn up in the process. While the adventurers admire Darkness for her noble hardiness, which Kazuma identifies as masochistic enjoyment, Megumin blasts the swarm with an explosion that takes them all out and throws the adventurers about. Kazuma steals plenty of the cabbages, but is put out after Aqua uses the nature's beauty skill, which he dismissed as useless to both preserve the cabbages with clean water and heal the injured. That night everybody enjoys fried cabbages, and Darkness officially joins Kazuma's party to his discomfort. Kazuma learns some basic magic for creating elemental things. Darkness and Megumin respectively buy a new suit of armor and magic manatite rod with their rewards from the cabbage harvest. Aqua, however, is told by Luna that her yield of cabbages has cheap lettuces mixed in, and so is worth only a small reward, which she has already overspent. Aqua begs and later blackmails Kazuma, who made a small fortune from the harvest, into paying her debt with the guild hall. The following day, Kazuma replaces his jersey with an outfit that fits in with the fantasy fashion. He looks for other easy quests since Aqua and Megumin are still traumatized by the giant toads, only to discover that because one of the Devil King's generals stationed himself near Axel, all of the weak monsters have gone into hiding, leaving only extremely difficult quests. The following weeks, Kazuma accompanies Megumin on her daily exercise of practicing explosion on an abandoned castle far from the city where the guards won't yell at her for the cacophony. Aqua works jobs like assembling artificial flowers and selling vegetables, and Darkness heads back to her home for training. Kazuma considers abandoning the goal of defeating the Devil King, prompting Aqua, who worries about never going back home, to shed tears. He then insults her at length, making her cry. Luna asks all adventurers to gather at the city gates, where the Devil King's general, Beldia the Dullahan, bellows his rage over someone casting explosion on his castle every single day. As the other adventurers look at an innocent female wizard, Megumin steps forward and brags about being the #1 wizard in the city. Seeing this as an opportunity to eliminate Beldia, Megumin calls out Aqua to help. Before she can do anything, Beldia casts a premonition of death at Megumin so she will die after a week, only for Darkness to be hit with the curse when she rushes between them. Beldia turns disturbed when Darkness fantasizes about him blackmailing her into all kinds of shameful play while Kazuma holds her back. The Dullahan then declares that he will undo the curse if Megumin can reach him at the castle guarded by his undead minions. After he leaves, Megumin and Kazuma become determined to raid the castle, only for Aqua to break the curse on Darkness with Sacred Break spell, dumbfounding Kazuma and Megumin on top of delighting the other adventurers. Kazuma again frets over this wonderless fantasy life, before Aqua hollers about taking quests to pay her debts. Kazuma prevents her from selecting the one about stopping the turf war between a manticore and a griffin. Aqua then chooses one requiring the purification of a lake near Axel so the brutal alligators infesting it will leave. Although Aqua is able to complete the purification just by touching the water, it takes half a day, during which monsters may attack her, so she requests the rest of the party come as guards. Kazuma instead rents a small iron cage from the guild into which he locks Aqua. Aqua endures the indignity with relative silence. The party transports the cage to the Riverhead Lake where they lower it into the shallows, so Aqua can let her goddess essence seep out, while Kazuma, Megumin, and Darkness observe from a safe distance. Following a discussion about going to the toilet, the brutal alligators gather around Aqua, who frantically casts purification as the reptiles bite on the cage and toss her about. 5 hours later, the lake is purified and the brutal alligators are expelled. The traumatized Aqua refuses to exit the battered cage, instead asking the others to take her back to the city in it. Swordmaster Mitsurugi Kyoya, the reincarnate from Japan who wields the cursed sword Graham gifted for his exclusive use by Aqua, returns to Axel with his admiring companions Cremia and Fio following a quest to subjugate an ancient dragon. He witnesses his beloved goddess being carted back inside a cage she still declines exiting. He breaks open the cage, which a cheered-up Aqua leaves upon Kazuma reminding her that she is a goddess, though she has trouble remembering who Mitsurugi is. Mitsurugi angrily confronts Kazuma over him bringing Aqua to this world, locking her in a cage, and making her sleep in a stable. He offers to let Kazuma's companions join his party, though the girls all turn it down because of his self-absorption. Mitsurugi instead challenges Kazuma to a duel with Aqua as the wager. Kazuma accepts, before distracting Mitsurugi with a surprise attack and stealing Graham, with which he knocks Mitsurugi out. When Cremia and Fio begin telling him off, Kazuma threatens to use steel on them, which scares them off. The following day, Aqua hollers at Luna because a large part of her quest reward was deducted to pay for the cage Mitsurugi broke. Mitsurugi and his party approach. He calls out Kazuma for all his misdeeds against women that Chris told him about, only to be decked by an irate Aqua, who demands he pay for the ruined cage. Mitsurugi leaves with his companions upon discovering that Kazuma sold Graham. Luna broadcasts for all adventurers, especially Kazuma's party, to assemble at the city gates, where Beldia is upset they didn't come to his castle. Kazuma blows up at Megumin and Aqua when it is revealed that they had been continuing the daily explosion exercises at the abandoned castle. Beldia expresses his rage at them letting Darkness die from his curse. Darkness had been keeping back in the crowds, but steps forth when he refers to her as a model knight, deeply flattered. Aqua laughs at his failure to realize that his curse had been dispelled, before casting Turn Undead, which has a painful effect on the Dullahan. Surprised that someone as powerful as her present in Axel, Beldia summons an army of undead knights and orders them to slaughter the city's inhabitants. The undead knights instead only chase Aqua. Aqua and Kazuma run towards Beldia before jumping clear so that Megumin can cast Explosion on all the undead grouped together, earning her new nicknames from the other adventurers. Beldia, however, survives the explosion. When attacked by a band of adventurers, he throws his head in the air to observe the whole battlefield so he can cut them all down. With Mitsurugi, the city's trump card, weaponless, Darkness charges forward to stop his advance, yet misses with every attack. Beldia's attacks rend her armor and clothes, and Darkness goes into another fantasizing fit. Kazuma seizes the chance to create water that Beldia dodges before freezing him in place. Kazuma then fails to steal his sword because of their differences in levels. Kazuma remembers that undeads are vulnerable to water. He starts creating water with the other mages. As Beldia dodges the water, at Kazuma's persuasion, Aqua casts Sacred Create Water, summoning a flood powerful enough to damage the city's outer walls. Kazuma steals from the weakened Beldia his head, now good only for playing soccer with. Aqua purifies Beldia away. Darkness prays for the slain adventurers, only to find to her embarrassment that they had already been resurrected by Aqua. The next day at the guild, the adventurers are drinking in celebration. Kazuma tells his party that now that they have acquired wealth, he intends to return to being a shut-in. Luna then informs him that his party is awarded a special reward for defeating Beldia, but they also have to pay for the flood damages to the city, which plunges them into heavy debt, reigniting Kazuma's determination to defeat the Devil King so he can escape this world. During a freezing winter day, when other adventurers stay indoors to enjoy their rewards from defeating Beldia, Kazuma wishes for more money so he can pay off the huge debt caused by Aqua. When browsing the quest board, Kazuma rejects the ones for subjugating white wolves and one-punch bears that Darkness and Megumin choose, before noticing one for scouting out something called the Destroyer. He and Aqua then settle for the quest to subjugate snow sprites, which unsettles Megumin and excites Darkness. Trekking in winter attire to the snowy forest where snow sprites gather, Kazuma slashes at the fleeing snow sprites while Aqua captures and bottles them for cooling down in summer, and Megumin collapses after exploding 8 of them. The Winter Shogun, which protects the snow sprites, manifests. Darkness excitedly resists the guardian sprite that took the appearance of a shogun because of other Japanese reincarnates imagery, only to have her sword severed. Aqua releases the captured snow sprites, before advising her companions to drop their weapons and doge for forgiveness. Darkness, however, is too prideful to do that. Kazuma rushes forward to press her head down, but having forgotten to drop his sword, he is beheaded by the Winter Shogun. In the afterlife dimension, Eris offers him her condolences. Kazuma whinges about his reincarnated life. When Eris is about to reincarnate him in Japan, he finds himself weeping as he misses his companions. Aqua calls in for Kazuma's soul to return to his body, on which she had already cast resurrection, and overrules Eris's law against opening the door of the afterlife by threatening to confiscate her chest pads. Back in the RPG world, Kazuma is hugged by the relieved Megumin and Darkness, but refuses to thank Aqua for resurrecting him, and feels disappointed with Aqua compared to Eris. He decides that they are too weak to take on winter quests. Aqua shows them a captured snow sprite she kept hidden. Kazuma demands she give it to him so he can claim the kill reward for himself, but she refuses to let anyone kill it, saying she plans to use it as a refrigerator. When they return to the guild, Kazuma considers Eris the main heroine and is disenchanted at his gluttonous companions with their odd personalities. Aqua warms herself beside a campfire outside the freezing stables. She is stopped by Kazuma from using his tracksuit as fuel. Kazuma takes her to Wiz's shop, where he has to repeatedly stop her from purifying the Lick shop owner, due to the owner insulting the Axis Order and revealing herself to be one of the 8 Devil King's generals. Though unlike Beldia, who liked to peek up her dress by throwing his head at her feet, she never harmed people and simply helps to keep the magic barrier surrounding the Devil King's castle up. As they sip tea Aqua ordered, Kazuma says he wants to learn Lick skills. Wiz teaches Kazuma Drain Touch, though when demonstrating it on Aqua, she nearly gets purified until Kazuma stops her. Wiz passes on to them a commission by a real estate broker to purge the ghosts that infest an uninhabited mansion once owned by a nobleman. During the assignment, they must live in the mansion. The party moves in and cleans the dust, while Aqua recounts the life story of the ghost haunting the mansion. After nightfall, Aqua finds someone drank her treasured bubbly. Enraged, she charges around the mansion, casting Turn Undead on any ghost she runs into. Kazuma, needing the toilet, wakes in the middle of the night, only to see dolls crowding around him. Fleeing to Aqua's room with floating dolls chasing him, Kazuma finds no one inside but a cowering Megumin, who needs the toilet too. Unable to expect aid from Aqua or Darkness, the two of them quarrel over how to relieve themselves, until they are chased out by dolls bursting in from the window. They make it to the toilet. Megumin enters first, but Kazuma drags her out without waiting for her to put her pants on when the dolls appear again. They lock themselves into another room until the dolls try to force their way in. Kazuma attempts to make a break for it, only to discover Aqua has already purified all those dolls which had been possessed by ghosts. Kazuma and Aqua collect the rewards for purging ghosts at the guild, but upon Luna explaining that ghosts infested the mansion because somebody cast a magic barrier that prevented them from entering the nearby public cemetery, Kazuma realizes the whole ordeal is Aqua's doing. Aqua confesses she set the barrier to avoid purifying the cemetery every single day, so they agree not to accept the reward. Wiz visits a grave in the mansion yard as it is being cleaned by Kazuma, who then has to save his tracksuit from being used as firewood. Aqua pesters Kazuma into giving her the sofa seat before the fireplace. He complies without of pity upon realizing that her intelligence will never improve. The next day, while hanging around downtown, Kazuma notices Dust and Keith loitering around an alleyway. They let him into the secret of a cafe run by succubi. After being shown his seat next to the ruffian, the receptionist Succubus explains how the cafe sends succubi, granting men realistic dreams of any erotic experience they want in exchange for a little of their vitality. After confirming with the succubus that his sexual partner can be a girl he knows, Kazuma excitedly fills in his request form. But rather than identify a specific desired partner, he requests a beautiful, inexperienced older woman. Returning to the mansion, Kazuma finds his companions cooking crabs sent by Darkness's family for dinner, which they all eagerly dig into. When Aqua suggests they drink hot bubbly from the crab shell, Kazuma declines because he won't be able to dream if he gets too drunk. Kazuma goes to bed early. Being too nervous to sleep, he decides to take a bath and dozes off in the bathtub. Kazuma is awakened by a naked Darkness walking in to take a bath. Thinking that his dream has begun, he orders Darkness to wash his back. Though Darkness is unnerved at having her submission sexual fantasies so abruptly manifested, Aqua shouts in alarm about an intruder. Rushing out to the corridors, Kazuma discovers the newbie succubus sent to make him dream caught in the magic barrier Aqua raised around the mansion. Realizing that he is not dreaming, Kazuma covers for the succubus escape as Aqua, Megumin, and Darkness, who think he has been charmed, beat him up. The next day, Kazuma at first pretends he was under the succubus's control as he makes up with Darkness, but abruptly changes his tune, blaming Darkness for their sexual encounter. Luna makes an emergency broadcast about the mobile fortress destroyer approaching Axel, as Luna warns townsfolk to evacuate while pledging for adventurers to assemble at the guild. Aqua and Megumin pack up to flee from the rampaging mobile fortress destroyer that Darkness says will destroy everything in its path. But Kazuma is determined to save his newly acquired home. With an hour left until the destroyer reaches Axel, Kazuma suggests Aqua break the destroyer's magic barrier so Megumin and Wiz can immobilize it. Darkness stands guard outside the city walls as construction workers assemble barricades, confessing to Kazuma her real name as well as her true identity, being a noblewoman charged with defending her protectorate. Climbing atop the city walls as the destroyer comes in sight, Aqua breaks its barrier with a sacred break spell, followed by Megumin and Wiz blasting its legs with explosions, making it grind to a halt. But when the other adventurers cheer their success, the destroyer broadcasts a warning about its imminent self-detonation. Darkness charges the destroyer out of masochistic excitement. The other adventurers, mistaking her for attempting to stop the detonation, all follow suit. Kazuma takes Aqua and Wiz to seek its control room, where they find the remains of the head researcher tasked with constructing the destroyer. From his diary, they read how he set the fortress into construction just to avoid execution, before spending the remainder of his life trapped on the destroyer when it went on a rampage, which started by destroying the kingdom which constructed it. Wiz uses Drain Touch on Kazuma to recharge her magical power, allowing her to randomly teleport the Coronadite used as the destroyer's power source at Kazuma's direction. The destroyer, however, accumulated so much heat that it will burn down the city. As everybody flees from it, Kazuma drains power from Aqua to recharge Megumin so she can blow the destroyer to pieces with explosion. The inhabitants of Axel return to their lives. Knights arrive from the royal capital, and the accompanying prosecutor says that the Coronadite Kazuma ordered teleported obliterated the mansion of the local governor, and accordingly charges him for treason.